Hi, hello everyone. Welcome. My name is John, and this is ICO Favorites with another review. Today I'm going to talk about the very interesting blockchain software. Here's a breakdown of what we're going to talk today. Today we're going to talk about the EOS blockchain application. It's a very interesting application and I have a lot of stuff that I want to discuss about. Here's a breakdown of what we're going to talk today. I'm going to show you what is EOS. I'm going to show you the blockchain limitations, the EOS improvements on the blockchain. That's what this application is bringing new to the industry. The features of EOS, such as DPoS, transaction confirmation, proof of concept, proof of stake, parallel permissions, and latency. And we're going to have a look at the roadmap of the development of this tool. Later, I'm going to talk about the ICO that's ongoing right now. The ICO is the crowd sale, and we're going to give you a description about it. And of course, the wallets allowed in the ICO. My opinion is going to come in handy for your investment. Also, I'm going to talk to you about the opportunities and the concerns regarding this project. And of course, I'm going to give you an overview about the theme behind the EOS. So we're going to dive straight into it. What is EOS? Well, EOS is a decentralized autonomous platform that is designed to allow people to build, host, and govern decentralized applications. It is an open source software that allows developers to build blockchain applications. It's a programmable blockchain that allows you to develop and deploy applications without relying too much on the lower layers of your stack. This software introduces a blockchain architecture designed to enable vertical and horizontal scaling of decentralized applications. This is, of course, achieved through an operating system that is a construct upon applications, upon which applications can be built on top of this. This solution also includes a testbed on a public environment that was very recently launched called EOS 2.0. And for what I remember, this is actually the first time a solution of this magnitude provides a public testbed for its developers. So that really comes in handy. The idea of the EOS is that if you're able to build a basic website, you should be able to build and launch into a decentralized business. So about the blockchain limitations, well, if all these services were to be put on a regular public blockchain such as Ethereum or Bitcoin or some others, it would take something around $100 to $200 million a year just to host the minimum requirements for the client apps to run. So all the development workload would be on the developer side, and that would be way more costly than what EOS is proposing. What the existing platforms are capable of now with Ethereum and Bitcoin is roughly 2 to 20 transactions a second, meaning $5 to $6 million a day. In terms of the transaction cost KPI, what we're really looking at is 13 to 19 US dollars per transaction, and very limited throughput in return for that amount of investment. So what does EOS bring to the table? What are EOS's improvements? Well, EOS appears to be a totally different player in the blockchain industry because its architecture is the first to be designed from the ground up. In terms of scalability, it ranks pretty high, meaning that it can go all the way up to the several million mark transactions per second with sub-second latencies. This is quite amazing. I was astounded when I saw the benchmark tests in the conference in London. So EOS completely changes the transactions throughput by pipelining the operations into a parallel paradigm. It's a totally different paradigm what they use, and the structures that they use to achieve this are amazing. Doing so, it allows for millions of transactions per second and almost 50,000 transactions per thread. I'm going to go through the mechanisms that they use for transaction later on. Talking a bit about the features of the EOS. Well, the main features of this software, well, they're accounting mainly, authentication, database management, asynchronous communication, and the scheduling of applications across multiple CPU cores and also clusters. Many of other functions also provide for smooth execution of your decentralized blockchain app. The resulting technology of all these features is a blockchain architecture that has the potential to minimize the workload of the developer by providing him with the distributed services that he needs in order to focus on his core coding. That's the most important thing. This will provide a safe ground for your decentralized application to run at. Using the EOS layer will release the programmer from the low-level tasks and avoid a lot of code rewriting, speeding up the process of developing for sure. Having such a resilient architecture under the hood facilitates the elimination of user fees as well, being currently applied in distributed systems. You will no longer need to start smart contracts to interact with EOS decentralized apps. This means a drastic decrease on your operational costs. The price of the transaction that these guys are announcing is quite lower than the current market value. It went down from something like $15 per transaction to a 0.005 of a cent. This has an incredible impact on the industry because it's opening the door for the widespread adoption of this blockchain platform. For the first time, businesses can actually build an enterprise scale application. This is the first time blockchain technology is done that can support real-world use cases, serving millions of users with a reduced cost. This is very interesting. Talking about consensus, one of the main problems of blockchain solutions is consensus. The good old consensus protocols issues can drive anyone mad, and the guys that work at blockchain industry, they really know about this. EOS software utilizes the only decentralized consensus algorithm capable of meeting the performance requirements of applications on that blockchain. It's called DPoS, it stands for Delegated Proof of Stake. Under this algorithm, those who hold tokens on the blockchain, adopting the EOS software, may select block producers through a continuous approval voting system, and anyone may choose to participate in the block production. Anyone that chooses to participate in this block production will be given an opportunity to produce blocks proportionally to the total votes that they have received relative to the other producers. This will make the network fair and help with network stability. The EOS software enables blocks to be produced exactly every 3 seconds, and exactly one producer is authorized to produce a block at any given point in time. If the block is not produced at the scheduled time, then the block for that time slot is skipped. When one or more blocks are skipped, there is a 6 or more second gap in the blockchain. Using the EOS software, blocks are produced in rounds of 21. At the start of each round, 21 unique block producers are chosen. The top 20 of the total approval are automatically chosen every round, and the last producer is chosen proportionally to the number of their votes. The selected producers are shuffled using a pseudo-random number derived from the block time. This shuffling is done to ensure that all producers maintain balanced connectivity to all other producers. Under normal conditions, the DPoS blockchain does not experience any forks because the block producers cooperate to produce blocks rather than compete. This will help with fork preventing. Even though forks might happen, in the event there is a fork, consensus will automatically switch to the longest chain. This metric works because the rate at which blocks are added to the blockchain's fork is directly correlated to the percentage of block producers that share the same consensus. In other words, a blockchain fork with more producers on it will grow in length faster than one with fewer producers. This is a very simple concept, but the block producer should be producing blocks on 2 forks at the same time. If a block producer is caught doing this, then the block producer will likely to be voted out. Cryptographic evidence of such double production may also be used to automatically remove abusers, making this network safe and helping the consensus reign. Another feature of this EOS application, and which actually is another challenge of the blockchain application, is transaction confirmations. Let's talk about it. Well, we have to approach this in a very simple way. Using EOS's DPoS algorithm, the typical DPoS blockchains have a 100% block producer participation. A transaction can be considered confirmed with 99.9% certainty after an average of 1.5 seconds from the time of broadcast. There are some extraordinary cases where a software bug, internet congestion, or a malicious block producer will create 2 or more forks. But this consensus protocol is robust and it will handle it. How, you may ask? Well, it is possible for a node to warn users that there is a high probability that they are on a minority fork within 9 seconds of the start of a fork. After 2 consecutive missed blocks, there is a 95% probability that the node is on that minority fork. Within 3 consecutive missed blocks, there is a 99% certainty of being on a minority fork. It is possible to generate a robust predictive model that will utilize information about how the nodes were missed, recent participation rates, and other factors to quickly warn operators, and this will warn the operators that something is wrong. The sooner the operators are alerted to the fact that something is going wrong, the better, of course. That responsiveness is actually essential for the system to remain stable. The response to such a warning depends entirely upon the nature of the business's transactions, but the simplest response is to wait for between 15 to 21 confirmations until the warning stops. Another aspect and a very important feature is the proof of stake. Transaction as a proof of stake, that's more accurate. The EOS software requires every transaction to include the hash of the recent block header, and this hash will do 2 things. One, it will prevent the replay of a transaction on forks that do not include the reference block, and it will also signal the network that a particular user and their stake are on a specific fork. Over time, all users end up directly confirming the blockchain, which makes it difficult to forge counterfeit chains, as the counterfeit would not be able to mitigate the transactions from the legitimate chain. That is all for proof of stake. Now, parallel permissions, of course, the permission evaluation process is a read-only process, and it changes to the permissions made by transactions do not take effect until the end of the block. This means that all keys and permission evaluation for all transactions can be executed in parallel. When replaying the blockchain to regenerate the deterministic state from the long messages, there is no need to evaluate the permissions again. The fact that a transaction is included in the known good block is sufficient to skip this step. This dramatically reduces the computational load associated with replaying an ever-growing blockchain. This is how EOS handles this problem with parallel permissions. Oh, and now latency. Yes, latency is a huge problem in the blockchain industry. We're going to talk a little bit about it. Well, latency, of course, as all you guys know by now, is the time it takes for one account to send a message to another account and receive a response. If latency reaches a certain threshold, this will have a very strong impact on the consensus algorithm. So the goal must be to enable 2 accounts to exchange messages back and forth within a single block without having to wait 3 seconds between each message, I mean. To enable this, the EOS software divides each block into cycles. Each cycle is divided into threads, and each thread contains a list of transactions. This is a very clever mechanism to handle latency. Each transaction contains a set of messages to be delivered. This structure can be visualized as a tree where alternating layers are processed sequentially and in parallel. This might be one of EOS's strongest points, I believe, in approaching the distributed architecture. Now, the development roadmap. I'm going to talk a little bit about the roadmap and the future of EOS. Their roadmap is pretty ambitious, having started already in the summer of 2017. I'm going to break down what's coming up for EOS. They are currently in phase 3, and that represents the winter of 2017 and the spring. It will end up in spring 2018. First phase was started in summer of 2017, and it's the viable testing environment. Then they moved to phase 2 of this happened in the fall of 2017. Phase 2 was the testing of that minimal viable environment. Currently they're on phase 3, security auditing. That's what they're doing right now. That's what they showed in the conference in London in autumn. And this will last till spring 2018, as I said before. Then they're going to move in the summer and fall of 2018 to phase 4. That means the parallel execution testing. This is a crucial step in their development. And later on, they're going to move into the challenges ahead. That's going to be a very new phase for them. They're going to have to, it's all going to depend on how the ICO ran for them. And that was going to be the phase 5. I'm going to break down each and every one of the milestones. So phase 1, like I said, summer of 2017, this happened already. They were their goal on this phase was to establish the APIs that developers will require to start building and testing applications on EOS. In order for developers to start their testing, they will require a couple of features to be implemented. One of them is the standalone nodes for them to do the development on their own environment, the local private environment. The native contracts, of course. The native contracts are essential for the transactions to start. The virtual machine API, this will help the standalone mode as well. The remote procedure call interface has to be finished, and it is finished as far as I saw on the conference in London. Command line tools, so to make an API ready for them, for the developers. And of course, right alongside this basic developer documentation has to be created in order for the developers to have some information about it. Phase 2, which happened in fall of 2017, everything in phase 1 assumes a trusted environment that runs on the developer's own code. So before a test network can be developed and deployed, several additional features have to be implemented and tested. So peer-to-peer network code has to be implemented as well, and this is a plugin that is responsible for synchronizing the blockchain state between two standalone nodes. This is a core functionality of EOS. The WASM sanitation and CPU sandboxing for testing is very important. The WASM code needs to be sanitized to check for the non-deterministic behaviors such as floating point operations and infinite loops as well. Of course, not forgetting the resource usage tracking and rate limiting to prevent abuse of the resource monitoring and usage tracking rate limits. All these users will be stacked according to EOS's policies. And genesis of the important testing, the tools need to be developed to export data from the EOS token distribution state and create a Genesis configuration file. This will be pretty much the core file of developing functionalities of this prototype. This will enable anyone participating in the token distribution to acquire some initial test beds. And of course, the inter-blockchain communication that you will, well, this is also very crucial. It's every point, every aspect of this milestone is very crucial. They need to verify their Merkle hashing protocol to see if the transactions are coming out proper. Once you get this out of the way, you can totally guarantee that your hashing is resilient, and that's not going to give you any problems further down the way. Testing and the security audits. This is the current phase. This is phase 3. During this phase, the platform will undergo heavy testing with a focus on finding security issues and bugs. And example applications will be developed so that they serve as a reference for developers, of course. Bounties for successful attacking networks. This is going to give you. Well, this is going to give the solution a bit of out-of-the-box thinking when it regards security, and of course language support. So this can be a widespread solution, and documentation and tutorials. Very, very important for building a community. Phase 4. This is a little less clear by EOS. This is the parallel optimization. This is going to happen in fall. Summer, fall of 2018. They will try on the previous phase the current phase, they will try to get a 1.0 version of this product, and then they will move towards optimizing the code for parallel execution. Once this is done, they will be pretty much set up for production. And of course, phase 5 is just a reference milestone, and this one in particular is still undefined and will be depending on EOS's ICO. This is one of the non-technical challenges that these guys at EOS will face in the future. This is one of the non-technical challenges that these guys at EOS will face in the future, and that they really have to handle it carefully. Like I said before, this all is going to depend on the ICO's performance, of course. Talking about ICO's performance, we're going to talk about the crowd sale description, the ICOs. So it has already begun. So the ERC20 acquisition tokens are already being deployed. It's on phase 4 of deployment. You can actually track the token acquisition process in their website in EOS.io. What's going to happen is that it's going to be a permanent offer. So EOS wants to keep the investors interested for longer by sharing the knowledge of how the development is taking place to all the investors, so that they keep their interests. And from what I see, from what I read from several blockchain influencer blogs, is that this is quite a big challenge to put forward in order to bring this amount of changes into production. This EOS requires, of course, a lot of funding, and this is why they started their own ICO. This ICO in particular has a very appealing vibe to me, and it should have that appeal to investors as well. It's going to use Ethereum to host it. It's going to create ERC20 tokens on your Ethereum network, and it's going to go through a very interesting initial coin offering, the ICO. A lot of international coin offerings we've seen just last a couple of hours with a maximum goal, and once it breaches that goal, they close. EOS's ICO will be different. It's going to last a whole year. In fact, it started already, and it's currently amidst its 4th phase. 1 billion tokens are going to be distributed. And here we can see ICO summary. ICO phase 1 will distribute 20% of the total amounts. That amounts to 200 billion EOS tokens. Then phase 2, 700 billion as well. That represents 70%. And of course, phase 3, 100,000 EOS tokens. You can track this on the EOS website. This is the first type of ERC token sale that's going to go through this kind of process. It's going to be very interesting to follow as well as to how it's going to unfold. Every day during this year, there are going to be a certain amount of tokens that are going to be available for those with a sharp eye during each phase. This is very new in this business, and adding to this new way of doing things is in fact the fact actually that it's going to be distributed in proportion to how much the total amount is being paid, indexed to the amount of transaction cost drop in the coming years. So that is quite interesting as well in terms of the EOS team's commitment to what they are bringing to life with this project. The recommended wallets are MetaMask and MyEther wallet. Those are the only wallets that are going to be accepted in this ICO. So this is very important information to retain. These are the only ones that are going to be supported by the ICO. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the team. The team is supported by the mother company, that's Block.one. The Block.one is building the EOS software, and they do have employers and advisors based all around the world. The company focuses on business-grade technology solutions, including, of course, the blockchain software development. The team is led by CEO Brendan Bloomer and CTO Dan Larimer. Dan is a key person in the project as he has amassed an important amount of experience with these past projects, Steemit and BizShare, which were two application-specific blockchains applications. He has been present at many conferences around the world talking about the advantages of the EOS solution. Talking about Steemit, which was one of the first applications that Dan was involved, Steemit can be built on EOS as well. So you can actually build a whole blocking network over EOS, such as Steemit. And the whole idea of EOS is to make the creation of such blogging network apps or any similar app possible and easy to create without worrying about lots of the inner workings of the transport layer. So this is what Block.one is enabling. Opportunities, well, this is the important part of this review. Opportunities are humongous. A lot of projects that I see failing in the market have gone straight into building a general purpose platform without any experience in the building specific applications beforehand. And I think that might have been the core cause of their failure. If you want to do something like this, an application that is so generic, you really need to know what do the specific applications do, and to have some experience on developing them. The opportunities that EOS is sharing are very interesting in the sense that they're building the building of two particular cases before, as they've done before, must have made this product very complete, as it has given the EOS developer team the chance to realize how to generalize it by identifying the common aspects of the specific applications, like I said, BitShare and Steemit. So as I said before, the idea of a general purpose blockchain is to provide the things that all decentralized applications have in common. So it reduces or makes it easier as easy as possible to launch each one of the business applications. So EOS is a very strong competitor in that. The worst part is the concerns. Well, concerns since this is a very new industry and no one quite knows what the problems are on the long run and how to solve it. Well, this is going to be one of the main concerns. Well, building this decentralized applications is extremely difficult, and it's actually a very disruptive industry, and of course that encompasses a couple of risks, as you may have imagined before. There are very few people that have the required proficiencies to do so, and these guys have put up a very competent team that has a lot of experience, like I said, in previous applications. Also, to fund this project is to support a continuous improvement of a very interesting computing paradigm that has already proven itself. What EOS is advertising is a solution that will take up this paradigm a few notches. They have scored pretty high in all the benchmark tests of their prototype, and they have a solid team with experts from around the world working intensely on the project and taking it abroad in conferences and lectures all throughout last year. So I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident that even though the challenges they have to face are huge, because they are actually, well, leveraging a computing paradigm to the next level, I'm pretty confident they have the skills to do so. So we are coming to an end in this review. I just want to wrap up by saying that I'm pretty excited about the future of this tool. The coming months are going to be very important. What EOS is doing is to invite everyone on board. So according to what happens in the ICO, well, it actually is going to change things for EOS, opening the possibility for all these new applications from old businesses to run over EOS is amazing. Changing the game is quite a challenge, and what these guys are doing is very bold. This distributed layer services that they provide will lay the foundation of how businesses will operate in years to come, I'm pretty sure. So if you guys want to find more information about EOS, well, EOS website has a lot of information about their solution. They also have a lot of developer information on GitHub. And also don't forget to check the technical white paper, which contains extensive and very technical information about the architecture. So this has been another review by ICO, reviews.com. This is the end of our review of the EOS software. I sincerely hope that you've liked it and that you've learned a lot from it. This is goodbye to everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you next time.